Andrew. Okay, so we are in our stream now. So welcome back to all my virtual attendees. And one of the things that we've been doing for the past couple of years is pulling our local database for nominations of teammates, peers that have been going above and beyond the extra call of duty. And we know that you all work really hard in this industry, so we appreciate you all, and this is why we have this event today. But we do have about 20 people we're going to recognize. Some of them may have left. But before we get started doing that, how about a round of applause for our sponsors, because we definitely could not be here without them. Okay, so let me go ahead and get started. I know it's kind of a tight squeeze, but when I call your name, if you can come up, we have a certificate and a little award of our appreciation for you. So is Mark Emming, Director of IT Security from MRO Corp. Are you here? Come on up. I know we're over here. We like to break it up and get you guys out of that conference room when you've been there all day. So come on up, Mark, and congratulations. All right, what about Michael Wilkes? He's the CISO at Sencora. Michael Wilkes, are you in the room? Michael Wilkes? Oh, Michael's coming? Okay. I may have to start naming it. We could be here all day because of the crowd here. All right, Michael, congratulations. And maybe if I can have an assistant help me out here. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, you want to help? Oh, here, Heather. Heather, do you want to just stand over there and then stand up here and then walk over? Okay. Randy Bednars is the Director of Information Technology at Liberty Lutheran. Are you here, Randy? We know these people checked in today, so they may just be around still. Travis Sladika, Security Engineer Manager from Lockheed Martin. There's Travis. I have Patrick McBride. He's IT Manager from Morris James. Patrick, are you here? Patrick, going once? See, these people are so important that they usually can't stay all day. Vince Strouser is the IT Manager at Doylestown Health. Vince, are you here? All right, come on up, Vince. All right, Vince Fitzpatrick, Director of Information Security at Christian Care. Why don't you just go up through the... Okay, Robert Wilner, from CSA Delaware Valley. All right, thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you to all our nonprofit support. We appreciate all of our nonprofits that have been here today. Patrick Williams, Chief Information Officer at Philadelphia Federal Credit Union. Patrick Williams, are you still here? Then we have Molly Dodge, Information Security Analyst, Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia. Dave Warnick, Director of Information Technology at Cecil County Government. Dave, are you here? We have Jack C. Nessap, Director of IT Infrastructure Security at Redner's Market. I have Jacob Sauer, IT Manager at Aclaris Therapeutics. All right, congratulations. He asked me, who would nominate me? It's all a mystery, but you all have a fan club out there. Daniel Wynn is a security analyst at Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority. Krista Arndt, CISO at United is she in here? Okay. That was a really hard company to say. It was a tongue twister. Tammy Klotz is a CISO at Trinseo. Tammy, are you here? Oh, Tammy. Tammy is on our panel. All right. Thank you, Tammy. And we have Michael Pilch, Information Security Officer from Delaware Valley University. Thank you. We have Keith McMenamin, who has been with us in the past, Vice President of Information Technology at Visit Philadelphia. And last but very, very not least, Jessica Hoffman is the Deputy Chief Information Security Officer, HIPAA Security Officer, our keynote speaker, City of Philadelphia. And guess what? She is our moderator of the panel. So Jessica, come on up. Jessica, you can come on up. I'm going to hand you the mic.
Sorry, I got excited there.
All right. Okay. Our fearless leader today is back. Let's welcome our panelists.
All right, good afternoon. Y'all got your drinks, we got our tickets, you chill. Yep. Pat yourself on the back for hanging out all day. We appreciate you, we appreciate you. All right, well, we got an awesome panel here. We got a CISO, an ISO, a CEO, and our Director of IT Security. I know everybody here knows Keith. He throws the real parties. Well, let's get started. So how about we go with introductions first? Craig?
Yes, if you were fortunate or unfortunate enough, you pretty much got my introduction this morning in my talk, but I am the founder and CEO of Zyston, a cybersecurity solutions business based out of Dallas, Texas. And I bought your drinks.
We should have led with that.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tammy Klotz. I'm currently the CISO at Trinseo.
Hi, everyone. Michael Pilch. I'm the Information Security Officer at Delaware Valley University.
Keith McMenamin, VP of IT for Visit Philadelphia.
Awesome. Have a wealth of knowledge up here. So let's get started. How about we talk about emergent threats? Sounds exciting, right? So, Craig, why don't you start us off? What are the most significant emerging threats that you've seen lately, especially in your role with the company, if you want to talk a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, so part of the services that Zyston offers, we are an MSSP, and I think the most, more than an emerging threat, most aggressively and most frequently recently is ransomware. Now, that's not a surprise to anybody, but you know, the way it's coming in, you know, assets that are offline or have been offline or are brought online, but there's been some infection sitting on that server for a period of time. I'm loud enough; people can hear me. But anyway, the actors are very sophisticated. Landing on assets that are either offline, and then they're making lateral movement, and they're sitting inside the environment for weeks, months to learn the way the applications are used inside the network so they can move laterally unnoticed. And as I said, very sophisticated. And so we're seeing this across our client base, no particular industry, but something to be aware of.
I'll just add a couple of things to what Craig had to say today, but from a manufacturing perspective, I spent most of my CISO career in manufacturing, so whenever there is an attack that affects the production line from an operations perspective, that definitely has a pretty significant business impact. to an organization like Trinseo. So certainly keeping an eye on what's going on from a threat perspective in the OT world is extremely important. And then I think, we all have talked about, and we all know that email continues to be a pretty big attack vector for all of us, credential theft, et cetera. So it's really about making sure that we're, training our employees, making sure our employees are aware so that we can keep the organizations that we support protected.
So you just brought up a good point, Tammy, about the biggest threat these days is business email compromise. Does anybody have anything to add about that as far as how you're combating that?
We're all familiar with business email compromise. Someone in your finance department gets a fake invoice. The emerging threat there is with AI deepfake videos. Don't know who may have seen this previously. Earlier in this year, there was a finance worker received an invoice from his CFO for $25 million. He questioned it. So they ended up doing a video conference call. His superior was on it, as well as some of his colleagues that he worked with in his department, was told, go ahead, pay that. So he did, paid the $25 million invoice, which was fraudulent. Turned out that was AI deepfake videos.
Just to add to that, going back to the original question, I'm thinking the irresponsible use of AI from people who maybe mean well. They're trying to do things 10 times faster, stronger, better, but they're recklessly putting your information and your data at risk. And I'm also thinking about the people who aren't investing in some of these great technologies and security models that we have here today, like some of our vendors. We have great vendors here, so make sure you talk to them, know what your company is up against, and that match before it's too late.
You opened up a can of worms with the AI.
He did.
We can go far, far away. Curious, we had a presentation earlier too that said that there's an average of 200 some days that the bad people are in our environment before we recognize that. Craig, have you seen that in your experience?
Yes, absolutely. These are not your average rookie threat actors. These are sophisticated business people that probably went to the same schools and technology institutions that you did. They just happen to be bad actors. But they will sit inside an environment for months, learning the patterns, learning the applications that are used, and then they actually mimic those exact applications to move laterally. So very sophisticated players. Consider them adversaries of equal level of intellect, skill, and more importantly, and bad for us, is patience.
They got all the time in the world. I like to tell my students that this is a business. They work 9 to 5 Eastern Standard Time. They got a pension, a salary. They have sick days and PTO. This is a business out there. All right, great. So let's talk a little bit about IoT as well. This is for you, Keith. As the IoT expands, what security considerations are paramount, and how can vulnerabilities in IoT devices be addressed?
So IoT, I think you need to take it back to the basics. Make sure the software is updated. Update that firmware. I think that's critical. I think not leaving the default security in place as well is critical. Change the default password. I would say those are the 3 biggest, and also know what type of data it's collecting. There are some things that make it smart, but it doesn't need to know your personal nitty-gritty details. So make sure you take care of that in advance. Does anybody have anything?
Like your coffee machine or your refrigerator? I'm not a fan. Alexa's like devil.
No, I think Keith now nailed it on the head. With IoT devices, by nature, they're insecure. They're made for functionality, not security. So do the basics. Change the default password. Use MFA if possible. Segmentation. Keep them separate from your other resources, assets. Think internal DMZ, Purdue model, along those lines. And follow basic, good cybersecurity hygiene.
Tammy, did you want to add on to that with your manufacturing background? I'm assuming that you had to deal with a lot of IoT devices in that sector.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's extremely important is protecting those assets, right? Who has access to them? Who has authorized access to them? Making sure it's monitored, making sure that it's recorded in some cases, and making sure that you have the right fail-safe controls in place if, in fact, somebody does actually get into the environment. I think the other thing that becomes extremely important in the manufacturing industry, if you think about it from a supply chain perspective, what are you as a manufacturer producing that is going to impact your customers downstream, and then vice versa. If you look at it from where you sit and the raw materials that you're requiring to produce your product, how are you going to be affected in the event that one of those, either upstream or downstream, does fall victim to a cyber attack? So making sure that you're able to provide that confidence to your customers with regards to how you're protecting your environment so that they're not impacted from a business perspective, and then vice versa, making sure that the folks that you're dependent upon to make your product actually have the proper controls in place as well to ensure that they're not disrupting your supply chain as you go through that manufacturing process.
And you know, I'm put you on the spot, Tammy.
It's okay.
It's okay. To that note, I'm sure everybody here deals with vendors, or you are a vendor, right? So when we're contracting and sharing our data, extending our footprint with our vendors, we are trusting them with our data. So Tammy, in your experience, to your point, as far as making sure that your client feels safe, that there are proper security and privacy controls in place, what regulatory requirements or documentation or audits, what would you provide to your client to ensure them, or what extra security parameters or controls would you put in place to make sure that your client is comfortable?
So, you know, one of the things that typically will come up, you know, as a consumer of third-party services, we're always reaching out to our vendors asking for them to either complete a security questionnaire, or do they have their ISO 27001 or their SOC 2 Type 2? So can they provide that to us to provide us with some level of confidence? And then being, again, the reciprocating force of that is if our customers come to us, do we have those certifications in place to provide to them to provide the level of confidence? From a regulatory perspective, it's really going to be highly dependent upon your industry. You know, whether it's healthcare from a HIPAA perspective, whether it's manufacturing from a chemical perspective with ITAR and CFATS, it's really dependent upon what industry you actually are in. And then the global ones that we're all familiar with regards to like global GDPR from Europe. So it really is going to depend on your organization, but most importantly, you need to stay current on what's actually happening and changing so that you can be agile in your response to that. To make sure that your business is prepared.
Just a quick add. I'm sure everybody knows that third-party and fourth-party risk is real. It can get you on the hot seat, so follow the tips that Tammy just laid out.
Yes, thank you, Tammy. And we can take questions throughout if anybody has anything specific you want to ask on the topic. You have a question, Gigi, for real? No, not yet. Okay. Do you have a question? What's your question? Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Gotta get your mic.
Air gapping IoT devices. That's what your concern is, right? And how do you do it?
I know why everybody is not doing it, and why is you don't need a full duplex communication for, you don't want to transmit all your data into the world.
Correct.
You only need locally. Why is everybody not living full duplex communication into half duplex?
So I think, you know, part of it is historical. When a lot of these devices were born into an environment, specifically in manufacturing, they were never intended to be connected to the network. And then things changed, and then they wanted to be connected so people could get data off of them. So from an air gapping perspective, why aren't people doing it? It's really because they didn't know they had to when they first got it. And now it's the evolution of what technology has done to the industry and making sure that Folks are either doing air gapping if appropriate, if a system cannot be upgraded to the latest version, or it can't be patched regularly. But in the event that you have the proper network segmentation in place to isolate those devices and limit the communications in between, what are the proper zones that should be talking to one another, that's certainly, key to making sure that those devices are staying protected.
Follow-up question. Instead of using Wi-Fi or regular communication, why can't you use LoRa band, long-range wide area network,
For IoT devices, why can't I use
LoRa band, long-range wide area network?
long-range wide area network? Again, you have to look at your attack surface, I think is the most important thing. And how do you want individuals to be able to get in or get out? I can't talk to the specifics of the technical network technologies. That's not my gig. I have great people who work for me who can do that. But certainly, even if you think of it from a Wi-Fi perspective, making sure that that's not penetratable from the outside, who has access to it, because that is a key way that folks can get into your environment without really realizing, if it's not shut down, if it's not locked out, you have your hot dog vendor, your ice cream truck that's sitting outside to provide lunch and potentially can get into your manufacturing space. So,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Tammy. Let's move to more regulatory questions. My favorite. No, we're not gonna talk about NIST. Don't worry, a new CSF, none of that stuff, unless you want to. Okay. How about the sexy stuff? Ethical hacking. Any pen testers in here? Yeah, all right, we know you're here. Any flippers in here? Not today. This is for Craig. You were going to talk about this, right, Craig? How crucial is ethical hacking and pen testing in identifying, fixing security vulnerabilities?
We believe it's extremely appropriate and almost it has to be paired equally with your assessment exercises as well. I mean, we have a term we borrowed from the Soviet-U.S. relationship, back in the 80s, trust but verify. And that's what your offensive security practice can do. And the more automation or the more self-assessment that you give to technologists, the better their grade's going to be. It's like a self-proctored exam. I don't know if anybody ever made a B on a self-proctored exam. So you have to be really diligent as you go further into your self-assessment process. Then the offensive security becomes even more important to do that trust but verify. I mean, for example, if you're filling out a questionnaire and all your reports are secure in your AWS environment, well, if there's a penetration test that's knocking around on the outside and tests that, can find out that it's not true, and so you can confirm that the question was answered improperly, maybe not necessarily in a cheating manner, but an optimistic answer nonetheless. And so the offensive security, as part of a security practice, would capture that. And also, if one taking the exam knows that this offensive security testing is going to happen, then you may get better, more rigor in the honesty and frankness of the answer on the assessment side anyway. So very important part of the security program, and it's equally as important. It needs to be weighted with the assessment and the compliance side of the business.
I'd like to just confirm what Craig said. And the value of pen testing, vulnerability test, is you're going to find out your weaknesses, vulnerabilities, misconfigurations, and have an opportunity to correct them before a real hacker does.
Just to add to that, one last thing. In the event of an incident, it gives you a fighting chance. Again, when you're on the hot seat, you can say, I've done this. Do it as often as possible, as often as your budget allows. And in the event something bad happens, you can say, I've done everything possible. I've checked all the boxes, and they still got in. So that's my 2 cents.
What about unethical hacking? Where can we find a shark that will go after these Russians? Because I know people that have actually made fun of these Russians because they're lazy. Where is the shark that is going to attack back? And I want them right in Philadelphia.
Wrong conference, buddy. All right. So, I told you guys earlier I'm an auditor, and I've worked with a lot of clients over and over again each year. We do pen tests, and I can't tell you how many times we tell them they have a finding, they fix it, and we come back and it's the same finding. So, there's multiple areas of value doing your pen tests every year from an independent and internal. Hopefully you guys are doing that. And there's a lot of good tools out there if you don't have the budget for it. And I'm a firm believer training people up that's in your organization, just like we were talking about earlier. You're not gonna find everybody that can attest or has experience on every single job rack, right? But you train them up. Take care of people, they take care of you. But I'm definitely a fan of pen testing and just audits, period. I know that sounds weird. But like Keith said, Michael, you want them to find it before the adversaries do. Going into the regulatory compliance, the same deal. How can organizations effectively navigate and comply with the evolving cybersecurity regulations and standards? There's so many of them. How many of y'all got audit fatigue? That's it? Oh man, that's like a real thing, right? Just like alert fatigue. I mean, we get tired of all this stuff over and over again. Again, as a past auditor, it's always a pleasure to be able to work with my clients because, like I said earlier, we're an extension of them, as a trusted advisor. So no matter who your clients are, who you're servicing, you're a trusted advisor to them. And if you can find any weaknesses, you gotta let them know and help them through that as far as compensating controls or a full-blown remediation. We won't go into specific regulatory requirements, but certainly there's a lot out there, like Tammy said, regarding what your industry standards are. So, let's see. Anybody got any questions so far? Yes, sir.
So this one's for the whole panel. How do you guys handle innovation in the field? I mean, obviously, everything's changing every single day, and I'm going to throw this to the whole panel. How do you specifically handle innovation for your business?
So the question was, how do you handle innovation for your business, for those of you who couldn't hear the question? And I think the simple answer is to that you have to embrace it instead of fight it, because you are needing to enable and support your business to advance and grow. So you just have to figure out the right way to actually do that, to keep it secure, and making sure that from a staffing perspective that you're also staying up with it. Because ultimately what will happen is your business is going to drive innovation, and if you can't stay with them, you're going to be left behind. So it's really important organizationally to make sure that you invest in innovation, you embrace it, because otherwise, as a security professional, you're going to be looked as a blocker, and as a CISO, that's not what I want to be, viewed as, but more like a business partner, so that I can go with them and support them in their endeavors.
As you bring something new into your environment, I believe you need to do a risk assessment. Look at the benefits it's going to provide the business, along with the risk and cost, and see what's going to be greater. Is the benefit going to outweigh the risk as far as implementing it?
As an aspiring CIO, I try to span across all areas of the business, not looking at it from a security side. Looking at it from a security side, but embracing the innovation, but I try to build relationships in advance with the C-suite. So I'm brought in the beginning. We're not packing security in at the back end. I found that's been the most, the best approach so far, getting the early heads up so they're not giving you some innovative product that's totally unsecure, and then it's, how do I get this secure?
So baking security in instead of on.
I'll answer that as a CEO of a cybersecurity company, but this is true in any company. You can't be inward thinking. You have to, as a CEO, I have to force the leadership team to be outward thinking. You could pick up 40, 50 hours a week inward thinking. We all have packed day jobs, but if you're not staying up with innovation, particularly in this industry, you will lose. I mean, the graveyard of cybersecurity technologies that were out there even when I got into the industry back in 2016 is loaded. As you said, it innovates so frequently, and the EDR of yesterday, the homecoming queen of EDR yesterday, not so much anymore. So we have one-on-ones I have with my leadership team, or even in weekly executive sessions. I challenged them to come to the table with a competitor or something that they've learned in the industry about innovation. So the head of my SOC, when he's reporting, he comes to our executive leadership twice a month, he has to report on a competitor that he has seen or an innovation with an existing competitor. It's part of his report. So that makes him spend time proactively looking out, where's the next SIM coming from, where's the next EDR tool coming from. But I think it's important that, if you run a credit union, it's the same thing. You got to know what your competitors are doing, because you get to that sort of inward thinking and insular mentality. You think, oh, we got it all figured out here because he agrees with me. Well, he's sitting in the same conference room as you. You need to be thinking about the guy in the conference room across the city or across the country.
And I'll just comment, circling back to the AI. I'm a huge fan. ChatGPT is my best friend. I see some heads shaking. It's about utilizing this innovative technology wisely, right? So just like the panel said, we don't want to be the nose, because unfortunately that's what security is often perceived as, the no people, right? So we need to be like, we'll help you. Let's work together to implement this in a secure way. And it's not like, oh, we can do it tomorrow. And they still get mad, whatever. But, that's the point, right? Let's look at it. Let's check out the risks. But from an AI perspective, I'm on a lot of groups nationwide for SLED, and it's absolutely a problem for state, local, government, education, all of that, as far as people using Otter.ai and other kind of services, not even just in-house, but our vendors, right? And so an example, the transcription or the Otter AI stuff, like we have people using that when they're talking HIPAA data, right? So it's like, hold on, wait a minute, just a second. So I know a lot of states out there and a lot of cities. I think Philly, actually, Pennsylvania as a whole, we're pretty advanced with partnering with OpenAI at the state level, and with the Philadelphia, we certainly have an AI working group put together, and we constantly talk about it, because we're not saying no, we can't use it, but how can we use it in a secure manner? Especially when we're talking about like healthcare, because that's what AI is supposed to do, right? It's supposed to put us forward with medical technology, all of that. So we don't want to say no, but at the same time, we need to get a handle on it to make sure people are coming to us first before they're implementing it. And that's really where it's at. And that's where security awareness and training comes in, that they know who we are, they know to come to us, and they know the process there, which we have an amazing governance process, and we have weaved that into our like TRB, technical review board, stuff like that. Talking about security awareness and training, Michael, this is your jam here. What innovative approaches and technology are being employed in cybersecurity awareness training programs, and how effective are they in reducing human-related security incidents?
Security awareness training is the one security control that could probably give your business the most benefit for the lowest cost. Any report you read, it's going to say between 85 to 90% of all cyber attacks begin with a phishing email. Has anyone seen the series Suits? You may be familiar with it. So for those who aren't, it's about a prominent New York law firm. One of the lawyers has a line that he always uses. I don't play the odds, I play the man. That same concept applies to cybersecurity. For a hacker, it is easier to go in and trick you into giving your password than hacking it. It's easier for a hacker to go in and trick you to give them access to your system and network than bypassing your firewall. So how do we want to combat that threat? We want to have a complete security awareness training campaign program that's not a one and done, but something consistent. For a while, while ago, I was listening to a talk show, I think it was Stephen Colbert. It was after a recent data breach, a cyber attack, and he was saying, yep, I did my security awareness training, a 10-minute video on phishing, and a phishing game where I had to tell if it was a real or a fake email. And he said it sort of mockingly. So I'm thinking you need a little more than that. You probably want to include social engineering, the risk of using open public Wi-Fi. If you find a USB stick on the ground, don't plug it into your computer to see who it is.
Why not?
Malicious software on it. Now, to the other end of the spectrum, I have a great partner in HR, our HR director, who helps support our security awareness training campaign. When we were first talking, and we're talking about the length, he asked me how long it was going to be. We require users once a year, mandatory training, onboarding for new employees. It's required. Told him the length, and he sort of sighed a sigh of relief, said, my last employer, it was 3 hours. I couldn't wait to get done, and I ended up just playing the videos and doing other stuff. Not effective. You need to find a balance. And I believe it should be not only one time a year, but continuous. And how could you supplement it? Phishing simulation campaigns. Show the end users how the attacker is going to try and trick you. Brand impersonation, for example. Also, something else we do, monthly security awareness emails to our users. Usually tie it to the calendar. November, we'll do something on traveling, since people will be traveling for the holidays. December, holiday scams. You're not getting a free coupon from Amazon. That UPS delivery notification is not real. And in February, for example, romance scams. May, we have students graduate and job scams. And so we try and make it consistent. Now, no matter how much you give user awareness training, you're going to have that one user who's going to click on an email to download free tickets to a 2026 World Cup soccer match in Philadelphia. They want to come here, see a soccer match, eat at some of the world's best restaurants, as well as see some of the historical landmarks. So that's why you also want to follow it up with an overall cybersecurity program, defense in debt. When they click on the malicious link, you want to have a URL filtering to prevent it. If you can't do that and it tries to install malicious software, principle of least permission. Don't let the user be a local admin. Have your EDR. Use application whitelisting that only allows authorized business software to be installed. Yes.
So this is also my jam. So cybersecurity training and awareness is a huge deal for me. And you know, that continuous training and awareness that Mike just talked about is obviously extremely important because your employees, and usually the statement is that your employees are your weakest link. And when we start our cybersecurity training and education programs, we always try to switch that paradigm and make your employees your strongest link. So what does that mean, right? So you do constant education. You don't make it a chore. You do annual because it's a requirement from an audit perspective. But you reinforce, you know, how it affects them, not only in their business world, but also personally with their families, so that they reinforce them that this is not just a Trinseo thing or, you know, any other company that they're working for, right? I think the ongoing nature and the reinforcement is the key. And even as Cybersecurity Training and Awareness Month comes up in October, what are the special things that you're doing for that? Are you doing any gamification? Are you rewarding behaviors as opposed to naming and shaming those that did click on the link versus, you know, reporting it? So really shifting, again, the recognition that goes with that. and I was going to mention one other thing with regards to the overall program from a training and awareness perspective is really just to make sure that you're focused on what the messaging is, and that folks are collaborating and talking about it, because they'll be stronger together as you continue to reinforce your messaging.
Tammy mentioned about rewarding the employees. Sometimes not every employee is going to be as excited about cybersecurity as I am. So there should be some sort of incentive. Think about the carrot or the stick. So what could you do to encourage compliance with it among your employees? Some of the ideas may be offering them something, whether it be a gift card. If your budget allows, give everyone a gift card. On the opposite side of the spectrum, there's the stick. What could you do for people who don't complete it? Some ideas may be tying it to pay, whether it be their merit raises or annual bonuses, where if they didn't complete a mandatory training, they're not eligible for all of it, or whatever works for your business.
Yeah, make contact with your HR. Make this a part of a person's performance, not just a cybersecurity thing, but make incentive to get it done.
I'm not as nice as Michael. I'll be like, if you click on that link and we have to pay $5 million and we get on the front page of Philadelphia Inquirer, you're getting fired. I might not be able to fire you, but you're going to be real uncomfortable, okay? Period.
And I'll just wrap it up with one other thought on the training and awareness. One of the things that's been really effective for me is, everybody gets into the mindset, oh, that doesn't happen here. How could somebody do that? And what I found to be very effective, without naming and shaming, right, but using it as an education moment and turning it around, and letting people know that, that stuff does happen here. But let's talk about it, about how it happened, why it happened, and how we can prevent it the next time. So it's like the whole thing that we say about never let a good crisis go to waste. It's the same thing. Use it turn it around and turn it into a learning opportunity for your organization.
I shouldn't have said that. I didn't mean that. It's a safe space. We all make mistakes. Just like Tammy said, we're going to turn it into a teachable moment, okay? But I'm just saying, I've seen it happen. You're here one day, gone the next, okay? Craig, were you going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, you don't have to fire them. We found that waterboarding is extremely effective.
Oh, fantastic. That's against city policy. Okay, fantastic. Great conversation. Security awareness training, my jam, all of our jam. It should be very important, near-hearted to you for sure. I know we're coming close to time, but wanted to talk a little bit about collaboration and information sharing. And I feel like everything that was just talked about was about collaboration and information sharing. I know personally with the city, we collaborate with the collar counties, which has been amazing because, we're all in this together. And especially, like I said earlier, from a SLED, we're very in tune with what's going on with the state of Pennsylvania. And we are very fortunate to have an administration that really does care about IT, getting rid of that technical debt, implementing innovation. So I'm really excited to see where we go as a state, for real. And Philadelphia, just saying, we the face, okay? We the trendsetters, all right? That's what we're doing over here. So from a collaboration, information sharing perspective to the panel, how can we as an industry collaborate and share all of these great cybersecurity defenses that we have implemented within our organizations?
I'll start. So one of the things that I'll tell you, 8 years ago, I was new to cyber, and I was new to cyber in Philadelphia. And I can tell you that by coming to events like this, there was a time when I walked in a room and I was like, I don't know anybody here, right? And that's a very different story for me now, but it's because of the networking that exists in this community and the ability to talk to people about what you're being challenged with within your organizations, and really being able to share stories, horror stories, success stories, whichever ones they are. But you will find that, specifically in Philly, that is a very welcoming and helpful community. And I can honestly say I wouldn't have been as successful in my role as I have been if it wasn't for the Philadelphia community. So I encourage all of you to continue to go to events like this, build your relationships, get to know people, because one day you either may be hiring them to do something for you, you may be working for them. So burn bridges and definitely keep the communication open.
In different industries, there may be different trade groups where you could collaborate. I'll speak to higher education since that's the one I'm most familiar with. In higher ed, there is the National Cyber Forensics Training Alliance, along with EDUCAUSE. If you become a member of those, you're able to share information among different schools, universities. We all face the same challenges in our industry. And that's a way where you could share ideas and experiences with other similar institutions in your industry and be able to share ideas, experiences, find out what worked for someone, what didn't work, what product they liked, what maybe didn't do what it was expected to do.
For people like me who work for smaller organizations, events like FutureCon, groups like WeSys, Philly Tech Council, it's invaluable for me to get outside of my bubble and learn from the industry experts, because this builds, the united front against the bad actors. It gives small organizations like mine a fighting chance to defend ourselves.
All right, so we got a few minutes. I was wondering if anybody had any questions. Could be anything at all. Yes, ma'am. Just a moment.
So you mentioned deepfake sometime back. So security awareness training, what are we doing in security awareness training against deepfake? Do you have any example what's happening in security awareness training against deepfakes? How are we training people to recognize the deepfakes?
That is a great question. And it is very challenging for the human eye to detect a deepfake technology. But there are some ways currently. And as far as security awareness training, there are ways which include look for strange shadows in the image. The voice does not align, the lips does not align with the sound coming out, for example. But as the technology changes and evolves and improves, probably going to need a technical control to determine deepfake. Another thing that we're planning to do, there was a recent story in Colorado. A student was away at class. A scammer called up using deepfake technology, told the parents the child was in danger, demanded a ransom, they paid it. So that is something that we're looking to do, working with our Director of Emergency Services as far as awareness training for students and families as they begin the semester.
I don't think it's quite there yet in the awareness training. One piece of advice I could give, have a safe word, or when your brother starts calling, asking for money or something like that, something out of the ordinary, be proactive about it. Have some sort of phrase or something ready, because I do think the deep fake is coming, and that scares me, the potential that it has. Like, how do you defend against that?
And I think the interesting thing is to think about your audience, right? We all know the term, we all know what it means, but there's going to be a lot of people in your workforce who are going to be like, yeah, what is that, right? So even if it's just raising the awareness about, hey, this happens and this is what it is, be on the lookout for it, that will definitely, again, raise awareness that, oh, maybe I should think about this a little bit differently, right? And that in itself, it doesn't have to be in a training course. It just needs to be a, hey, did you know that this happens? And share that with your employee base.
I would add just being practical. If something's too good to be true, it's probably not true. And in a situation in our company, I've told my accounting and finance team and everybody else, I'm never going to call you and ask you to send me money. I mean, that's just, I've been in business 6 years. I've never had to do that. So that's not going to happen. So if it does, test it 93 ways from Sunday before you do anything. But because there's such a low probability. I mean, 25,000, much less 25 million. I mean, that's just not going to happen. So a lot of times there's a practical, stop, think about the request, think about who the request is coming from, and you can eliminate a lot of that. It's better off not paying the money and realizing that it was real versus paying the money and having, $25,000 deducted from your bank account.
I think we got one more. Go ahead, sir. Just a moment. Mike's coming. Just one moment, please.
So my response, what's the response to that? Once a crime's been committed, who do you report that to? Because it's easy to say don't do it to begin with, but once it's happened, where do you report it to?
So one of the things that I need to make sure of in my role is that I know who my local law enforcement contacts actually are, whether that's the police, whether it's the FBI. The other thing that you can do is, in a lot of cases, you can rely on, if your internal counsel has a relationship with external counsel, I would especially ask you to reach out to them, because they'll know from a legal perspective what you need to do and what you don't need to do. So definitely use those resources to your benefit to make sure you're doing the right thing.
Thank you.
Also, contact your bank. Let them know. See if they could stop it. The local FBI field office, and I believe, what's the one there? Their Internet Crime Center as well.
And CISO. One more question? You already had a turn, Gigi. Yes, sir.
If the number one most common attack vector is people and phishing, at what point do we as users, customers, vendors require all the email platform vendors to take responsibility of making sure that those links that are malicious do not come through?
I hear a clap. Any vendors here want to take that one?
It might hurt the vendors more if Microsoft and Google figure out it's going through their ecosystem, it's going through their servers, they can tell it's malicious. Stop it. It's the number one attack vector. Help us all out somehow.
So, I mean, I think it's an interesting question, VJ. I think it's it's going to come down to a liability question in some cases, as well as who's, from a shared responsibility matrix perspective, whose job is it? But certainly, as we're employing our email security vendors to help us protect our environment, I think the things that we need to think about is that, just like the rest of us, they need to stay one step ahead. And if they're not staying current on the technology and being able to protect the email, I think, that they're not doing their job either. So we need to hold them accountable. I don't know what it will take to, make it a breach of contract if something happens, but I don't think we're there yet for sure. But there's stuff that gets in because it's good and it's clean, and after it gets delivered, it turns bad because somebody's now gone and changed the URL that was clean and safe for them to go to, and now it no longer is. So I don't know. There are some tools available today that will help you with that, but it needs to be thought about. It's that innovation question we talked about earlier, right? How do you stay ahead of what's happening?
All right, I think we're at time, but just real quick, 30 seconds. I want to ask the panel, starting with Keith. Go ahead, put the mic down. Keith.
Jessica.
If you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
To just keep doing your thing. It would keep going. Don't listen to what the negative people have to say, and it's gonna be all right.
working in IT could be challenging in that you may have long hours dealing with incidents, go lives, whatever, but we're gonna do it. When you're done, take a break. Make sure you get your rest, enjoy the victory and celebrate it, and get ready for the next challenge.
Stay true to yourself, never compromise your values, and never settle.
Leverage your adult network to understand what the job market's all about. I see children that are seniors in college at great schools across the state of Texas and across this country, and they don't know jack, you know what, about the job market. And if your parents or your godparents or your whatever, your friends' fathers or mothers are in positions of authority or been in an industry for 10 or 20 years, go talk to them about where the puck is going in that particular industry, and don't just rely on your course that you've taken the last 4 years. Go talk to people for 10 or 20 years, and they're eager to give it. I bet most people in this room, one of your children's friends wanted to have a 30-minute conversation, but all entertained. So I wish I would have known that and done that better.
All right, so I just forgot what I was gonna say. See, I was listening so attentively to them. I don't even remember what I was gonna say. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. I tell little Jess, I say, Jess, you here for a reason. Okay, one more. Now, go. Keith want to say something. By the way, if you get an email from Keith at Love Philly that has tickets for 2026, that's not for you, okay? We're just telling you
That's
right
a
now.
scam.
That's a scam. He's not giving them up.
But what's not a scam, and Tammy, I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, but since you wouldn't do it, everybody, Tammy just recently released a book. I advise everyone to go to Amazon and purchase Leading with Empathy and Grace. I can't wait to read it. Can I have your autograph?
Yes. Congratulations, Tammy. Thank you to all the panelists. Thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure to be here. Enjoy the rest of your day. Please connect with everybody. Take it easy.
Check her out on LinkedIn. We're going to have a book celebration sponsored by our friends at Sony Resources. Thanks again. May 2nd.
All right. So to very last, to close our day, my beautiful Vanna White partner is going to wheel over our prizes, and we're going to rapid fire prize drawing. All right. Just making our way up. All right, so don't anybody go too far, because this is going to